I can just add in a Pokemon here or there and give myself a favorable matchup. You have to run so many Pokemon for Vespiquen anyway. Why not take advantage?
And it seems like he is sort of making some of those plug-and-play changes into his list. His looks a little bit different than the last time I saw it.
Yeah.
I know, like Jimmy O'Brien, he ran the exact same list that he played last weekend. I'm looking at Dylan's list, and you see things like one Wobbuffet, one Mr. Mime. Clearly trying to prepare for some of those tricks, like Mr. Mime can save you from the wide lens attack from Landorus, something like that.
Yeah, we even see something a little crazy we've never seen before. It's an Entei.
Oh my goodness.
Can't remember the last time I've seen an Entei used. Probably Entei EX from Dark Explorers.
yeah. Was that silly deck that was like just for Entei and Fire Energy? Like there was more to it than that, but yeah, it was just like solo Entei. Yeah. And even that saw sort of like niche play.
So the Entei deck with Moo Moo Milk and Potion and all that stuff.
Well, it sounds like Dylan is ready, and both players are actually starting to set up. So let's kick it over to the match. This is round 3, top 32 out of 5.
All right, there we do see Christopher on camera here, piloting that Nightmarch deck. Nightmarch is a deck we kind of see have some ebb and flow. Some weeks it's super good, like this week, a bunch of them made top 32. Last week I don't think it did very well at all. Really seems to be a metagame dependent kind of deck. Week 1 it really got pushed out of the format by all those Blastoise decks. They ran Articuno, which has that Delta plus Ancient Trait, allows you to take 2 prize cards against a Joltik.
I've had that happen to me. It does not feel good when an Articuno is turning your 30 HP Pokemon into an EX.
Yeah, so there's that, and then Wailord EX they can run as an attacker. So yeah, Nightmarch got pushed out, but then Blastoise went away week 2. So now Nightmarch comes back week 3. It's just always a constant rotation.
Yeah, it's always funny how the metagame continues to change. I've actually seen very little Blastoise, too, around the top tables. So it's interesting how that deck just destroyed the first weekend of regionals and then has slowly sort of started succumbing to some of these Vespiquen fueled decks. Oh, and speaking of the one copy of Wobbuffet, that's how Dylan is starting this game.
Yeah, that's that's actually good and bad. I think Dylan runs Wobbuffet just to get around Archeops. If you have Wobbuffet active, Bide Barricade takes away Archeops' Ancient Power, which allows you to evolve into Vespiquen and Flareon. He actually doesn't run any switching cards, so the 2 retreat cost on Wobbuffet is a little inconvenient. He does have 1 AZ, but it hurts to burn a supporter just to pick up your Wobbuffet.
So it looks like, yeah, he's running the Wobbuffet as sort of a searchable option. I'm looking through his list. I don't think I see the Hexamaniac, which is what some players will run to sort of save themselves against Archeops. So it looks like he's content with having a searchable option for it. The problem is Wobbuffet is weird. It's going to slow this game down for both players considerably. They're both very turbo-based decks. So Dylan now is sort of forced to play this slow game until he can move this thing.
Yeah, now the cool thing about Wobbuffet, it shuts down all abilities except for Psychic Pokemon. So Dylan can still use Unknown's Farewell Letter. It's a Psychic Pokemon, so you can discard it and draw a card still. What this does do is shut down Shaman EX, which Nightmarch decks are pretty reliant on. So it's still good Dylan started with this Wobbuffet, but you can see right away he Battle Compressors for that AZ, knowing he's going to need to do that if he wants to be aggressive at all.
Yeah, that's really his only way to pick up and move the Wobbuffet. So if he can ever find a Versus Seeker, he can use that to pick up the AZ, move Wobbuffet when he needs to. But considering this is the first turn of the game, probably not a terrible idea. You know, just leave Wobbuffet up, and now Christopher has to play it in the slowest way he can, with no abilities.
So we start off with an Acro Bike from Christopher. Opposite discard Trainer's Mail. I believe he took a Joltik there. Looks like he has Double Colorless Energy in his hand as well. And then he's going to go for this Trainer's Mail as well.
Trainer's Mail is one of the most, I guess, turbo cards. In the very, very fastest decks, you see almost 4 copies of this in all of them. You just look at the top 4 cards of your deck, pick a new trainer and add it into your hand. It's an excellent deck thinner.
Yeah, and what it's really for is digging for Battle Compressor. That's really the card that makes this Nightmarch deck tick. Once you find Battle Compressor, you get to search for 3 Nightmarch Pokemon, throw them in the discard pile, and your attack starts doing much more damage. The faster you can find Battle Compressor, There it is.
Yeah, speak of the devil.
The faster you get to attack for knockouts.
And almost as always, you see triple Lampent as your first discards from Battle Compressor. You can't attack with the Lampent, but they do have that Nightmarch attack printed on the card, so they are your first discards that you want to start fueling Nightmarch for your Pumpkaboos, Joltix, and Muse.
Yeah, and both these decks are going to have similar strategies. They both rely on Battle Compressor to put Pokemon in the discard pile. There are some subtle differences. I think the big one where players get tripped up, especially when trying out the Vespiquen deck, is your Battle Compressor decisions become a little tough. You never know which Pokemon you really want to throw in the discard pile. Nightmarch, your decisions are much easier. You want to discard Nightmarch Pokemon.
Yeah, it's always been rough for me messing around. It's like, okay, well, I can probably discard Audino. Maybe you don't need something like a Jolteon in your matchups. You can discard the Jolteon. But past that, you have to sort of commit to one of your evolution lines and start discarding the other one. So, for example, Dylan he's got a Combee up. Maybe he decides, okay, I can get rid of some Eevee Flareon. The Unknown are also a target. But you don't really have those guarantees, like, okay, I'm definitely discarding these 3 Lampent every single game.
All right, that was a huge play from Christopher. Plays the Hex Maniac. That'll take away all of Dylan's abilities. He opted not to use Farewell Letter on the previous turn, thinking he could just use it in a future turn. Now he can't use Farewell Letter. Also has a Shaman EX and a Jirachi EX in his hand, but no actual supporter cards. So he's going to have to just give up this whole turn because of that one Hex Maniac.
Oh, wow. And puts him in a very suboptimal position. Sure, he evolves to the Vespiquen, which does have free retreat. One of my favorite things about that card. But he uses that free retreat to just pass up an unown, hopefully take up a knockout. Now it's balls in Christopher's court. He no longer has that Wobbuffet stopping him, so you can play, for example, his own Shaman to start drawing away. And if he can find something like a Lysander, pull up Vespiquen and knock it out, that's certainly going to hurt Dylan.
Yeah, this matchup is a lot. It's very similar to a Nightmarch mirror match where, once you start taking prizes, the opponent almost has to keep up with you. You're going to get knockouts every single turn just because both decks feature low HP Pokemon. So if you ever miss a knockout like Dylan just did, it's going to put you way behind.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I actually don't like this matchup as a Vespiquen player against Nightmarch is once they get rolling, they don't need evolutions in addition to like the double colorless energy.
Right.
While Dylan, he's going to need to evolve. If this Vespiquen gets knocked out for any reason, he's going to have to find both a Flareon and an energy on Eevee.
Right, so there we do see Shaman EX's set up on Christopher's side. He'll be able to draw 4 cards off of that.
First one of the game, right? First Shaman?
Yeah.
Abilities are, first turn of abilities being active, I think. Aside from, I guess, Dylan's first turn when he could have opted to play the Unknown.
Right. And, I have to wonder what Christopher wants to go for here. I guess you could try to find a Lysander and bring out the Vespiquen. If you could find a Versus Seeker, just keep playing Hex Maniac. Seems like Dylan's hand isn't very good. He could just win the game by playing Hex Maniac over and over.
Yeah, it's one of the best things about that card is while it does have this late game utility, maybe need one turn where you can save yourself from abilities, you can actually create your own pseudo luck because almost every deck runs 4 Versus Seeker now. You can just keep cycling it. We are getting into sort of a weird spot of the matchup though, where if Christopher wants to play more aggressively, he's perhaps, and it looks like he's committed to, playing a second Shaman EX. The player that plays some more of these EX Pokemon with low HP on the bench can sometimes fall into trouble because, for example, if it passes into Dylan's turn, he can Lysander, knock out Shaman, and take 2 prize cards when you're normally basing your deck around only giving up 1.
Yep, we do see Town Map coming up, so he's going to flip over all of his prize cards. We'll see what's in there. Looks like he has... Does he play 2 Hex Maniac?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
I see one in the prize cards. Really deciding, hey, this is very valuable for me to disrupt my opponent. Definitely not a common play, I would say, in the Nightmarch deck.
Yeah, but we are seeing players trying out something new in super aggressive decks, relying less on supporter cards, going all out on item cards, and using Shaman EX. Then you end your turn by playing a Hex Maniac, trying to shut down your opponent's Shaman EX.
Speaking of the devil, Dylan now playing his own Shaman, drawing a whim. And is that a Life Dew as his A-Spec?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So he does have a lot of interesting play choices in here.
Yeah, that's one of the cards that can definitely swing this matchup. The Life Dew You take one fewer prize card when that Pokemon gets knocked out, and I mean, if it's a regular Pokemon, you will take 0 prize cards. So it can really turn the prize trade into your favor.
Yeah, that's something I'm sure Vespiquen would really like if it ends up being the attacker, or perhaps this Flareon, depending on whether Dylan has a double colorless or a basic fire. In fact, it might be Flareon that ends up taking the Life Dew. Put Life Dew on your main attacking Pokemon, and all of a sudden you're forcing your opponent to knock it out because they have to get rid of your attacker, but they also have to concede the fact that they're going to get 0 prizes from knocking it out.
You know, it's really weird. I just noticed Christopher also plays Life Dew.
Oh, wow. I wonder, maybe these players just on that same wavelength, maybe they've talked about the value of the card. Really great, actually, in this matchup for both players when the prize trade is very, very close.
Yeah, personally, I've always wondered if Life Dew was worth it. Sure, it gives you an advantage in the prize trade, but do you have enough resources to even power up, say, 7 attackers in a game? It seems like both these players feel like they definitely have that opportunity to do it. So both of them playing Life Dew. You get 1 ace spec in your deck. A lot of players choose Computer Search for the consistency, but these players going for the Life Dew.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a risky play. Computer Search is, I almost would say there's no deck that is bad in. It's always a consistent choice, and especially when you're playing these fast decks, a lot of players prefer to be able to search their whole deck, make sure they can find that crucial double colorless or something like that. But both players trying something a little bit trickier.
Yeah, and it looks like Dylan's deck is heating up at this point, getting a lot of Pokemon into the discard pile. You don't need a lot against Nightmarch. Be Revenge does 20 plus 10 for each Pokemon in your discard pile. Flareon's Vengeance does the same thing, but most Nightmarch Pokemon are easily knocked out after a few Pokemon in your discard pile. But big thing here is he does get his first attack, gets the knockout, and with that Life Dew, he does give him a little bit of life in this game.
Yeah, even if Christopher is able to summon another energy and attack here with Joltik, he cannot knock out Flareon and take a prize card.
Yeah, and he doesn't run any way to remove Pokemon tools, no Zero Sick, no Tool Scrapper, no Startling Megaphone, nothing. Once that Life Dew is there, it's there.
You know, that's something I found in this format in general. I remember once upon a time there were almost like a rule where you had to have 1 Tool Scrapper in your deck lists. Most players now opting to run it a little bit less. I think it was more the Garbodor era that forced players into running ways to discard tools. But now a lot of the times you can get away with dropping 1 and almost never seeing it get discarded.
Right, so here we do see the Professor Juniper off that Versus Seeker. Christopher gonna draw a fresh hand of 7 cards.
Well, he does have another energy, but he actually has the one on the bench. So he's going to retreat, switch out, and he can Nightmarch here, but again, no prize taken.
Right, Acrobike gets a Trainer's Mail. Gotta think maybe he is digging for,
Yep. Wait a second.
There it is, the Life Dew of his own.
Anything more frustrating than a 100 HP Pokemon that gives up 0 prizes? How about a 30 HP Pokemon that gives up 0 prizes? Turning Joltik into an attacking Robo-substitute.
Yeah. So there we see the Nightmarch attack. Again, no prize card because of that Life Dew. And I have to wonder what Dylan will do this turn. One of the big disadvantages of Joltik is that it has 30 HP. And one of the things you can do against it is you can use Shaman EX to Sky Return and actually knock out Joltik, pick it up off your field, so then you leave yourself with no Pokemon EX in play.
And that might be something that he's looking for now, is a double colorless energy so that he can just cycle Shaman back into his hand. We see Battle Compressor, Fire. I don't think any doubles, though.
Yeah, I don't see it, and that's a really big missed opportunity. He does have the Unknown. He could Farewell Letter, so we do have that option still.
Starting off Compressor, discarding any 3 cards he wants to out of his deck. I'm sure he has enough attackers, or enough Pokemon in the discard pile to fuel most of his attacks and knock out most of Christopher's Pokemon. So now the question is, looking through your deck, what don't you need for the rest of this matchup?
Yeah, at this point you can go through and look, like, have I discarded any, like, random Flareon or Vespiquen? If so, you can discard, like, an Eevee since you'll never be able to evolve it anyway. You can do some math and say, all right, how many Pokemon can I realistically attack with the rest of the game? It looks like 4 at this point, so if I have any extra attackers over 4, I'll just discard those, get them out of the way.
Right.
And you can also see, like, do I have a Vespiquen in my prizes? If so, I'll discard a Combi since I won't be able to evolve for the most part.
Definitely, yeah. Like we saw the Flareon discarded
Oh,
early in.
the farewell letter gets him the double colorless energy.
Hey, sometimes, it's like a benefit of, you think to yourself, like, well, if I thin my deck, I do increase my chances on this one card draw, and he's got the double. Shaman Sky Return is going to be huge, because Dylan will be left with no EX Pokemon remaining on his side of the field. Meanwhile, Christopher actually showing 3 EXs. One of my least favorite things about the Nightmarch matchup is having to go in with a Mew, because by the end of the game, both these decks are dealing 100+ damage on their attacks. Mew giving up 2 prize cards the same as a Shaman would.
Yeah, at this point, I mean, Dylan still has to take 5 prizes, so if he knocks out Joltik, he won't get one. He'll have to knock out another Joltik and then 2 Pokemon EX. So after this turn, he still has about 3 knockouts to take. So there we have the Sky Return. Going to take down Joltik and promote that poor Audino as the sacrifice.
I was secretly hoping he had it there for the hidden hit bump technology, knock out a Joltik later, but it turns out when the rest of your deck can do a much bigger attack, you figure, why not just throw something up that can take the knockout, or I force my opponent to Lysander around me.
Yep. And here we do see Mew EX coming out. Probably not what Christopher wants to be doing, the surprise trade not in his favor, but he has up a prize card, so maybe he can make it work.
Yeah, Mew can get a little bit dangerous left in the active. I'm not 100% sure how many Pokemon Dylan has in the discard pile. I think he's trying to telegraph that information to us with the dice he has on top of his Lucario deck box. I just can't read the dice.
I think it's more than enough.
Yeah. And so if he can knock out Mew in 1 hit, that's 2 prizes. Another EX, that's 2. Both these players are sort of now in a 3-prize trade. Christopher needs 3 more knockouts. Dylan needs 3 more knockouts if he can make 2 of them in EX.
Yeah, the only thing for Dylan is he'll have to find double colorless energy a couple times. He'll have to find ways to power up Pokemon. And can he do that without benching a Shaman EX? That's the problem.
Yeah, I know he's gone through a few. For example, attaching and then doing Sky Return back to your hand. That keeps your double colorless in play, so he's got that. I don't know how many fire he has in the discard, but I guess Blacksmith is sort of a late game savior as well that we've seen when these decks run out of energy. It's really going to come down to both of those things.
Speaking of Blacksmith, I think he has it in his hand and the Entei, but he's going to go ahead and discard his hand with that Professor Sycamore. Entei, of course, has an attack 20 plus 20 for each of your opponent's benched Pokemon, so that can come into play as another 1 prize attacker. He can just charge up right away with the Blacksmith.
And why not? If you're already running Blacksmith, why not try and fix in one other attacker that could maybe help you in the end game?
Sure.
It doesn't need to evolve like your other attackers.
All right, so we see another Battle Compressor. Dylan getting rid of a Town Map and a Professor Sycamore. You might be wondering, why in the world would he get rid of Professor Sycamore? That's one of the best cards. Reason is he has under 7 cards in his deck. So
yeah, it's not going to help him that much.
Yeah. He does leave 1 in his deck since, later on at end to 1, he might want to draw that Sycamore, slam it down and draw his whole deck to find a game-winning energy. But at this point, yeah, this is where intelligent players can separate themselves. Battle Compressor is a great way to thin out your deck, and Dylan playing it perfectly.
So you see the Bee Revenge from Vespiquen, and there are enough Pokemon in the discard pile to knock out Mew EX in 1 hit, giving Dylan 2 prizes.
Yep. Now it'll be on Christopher. He's going to play a double colors on the Shaman. That would have been.
I think Joltik wants it a little bit more.
Yeah, you can see Dylan smiling like, oh, I wish you did that.
Now, I haven't been keeping complete track, but I'm pretty sure Christopher has gone through a lot of his energy. It's going to be a sort of a battle of engines. Can both these players remain attaching energy and continually providing new attackers?
Right, I wonder what Dylan will go for here. He has a Versus Seeker in hand, also has a double colorless.
Has a Lysander hit his discard pile at any point?
Yeah, he could do that. Or he could, Versus Seeker for Blacksmith, power up the Entei or the Flareon, then attach double colorless and have 2 attackers powered up guaranteed.
Christopher's going to enter this weird portion where after this Joltik, if this Joltik's knocked out, he's going to probably have to promote Mew and attack with Mew. And if he does that, he's revealing a Pokemon EX right in the active spot. Otherwise, Dylan could even stop that right now with the Lysander. The prize trade, I think, does favor Dylan. He's 1 attack ahead right now.
Yeah, definitely. It's just a matter of can he find the energy to pull off this attack. His hand isn't great. He does have Versus Seeker. He's going to go ahead and play it right now. Will he find a Lysander and go for the 2 prizes? Looks like it.
Yeah, and why not? Because then that shows, hey, I win the game next turn, even if you throw up Joltik and get a knockout on my side of the field. And we're really seeing the value. Oh my god, benching the execute.
Yeah, might as well. Don't want to draw that off an end to 1.
Yeah, just thinning his deck. He doesn't mind if it's knocked out because he's going to lose 1 prize no matter what gets knocked out. Now Dylan's sort of the only thing I think that could slow him down here would be the N.
That's right. Yeah, if Christopher doesn't have an N here, he's in some big trouble, but just has to Nightmarch. Does Dylan have the game-winning energy?
Trouble.
There it is. So Dylan Bryan going to take game number 1 with that Vespiquen. Takes down the Nightmarch deck. Seemed like he was falling behind early on, but just at the end of the day, he had more steam. He had more attackers ready to go.
Yeah, and he definitely had the benefit of being able to knock out multiple Pokemon EX.
Yeah.
And he removed all the ones that he played from his side of the field. Just Sky returning back to his hand, forcing your opponent to take 1 at a time, and that put him exactly 1 turn ahead of his opponent, even though both of them played a Life Dew this game.
Yeah, Christopher just put down too many Shaman EX, and sometimes the Nightmarch deck has to use Mew EX. That's just how it works. So yeah, even though Nightmarch is faster a lot of the time, you can get some turn 1 attacks sometimes, take the prize lead early on. As the game progresses, that's definitely the deck that has to bench EXs more often, and that can end up biting you in the end.
Yeah, it can. It becomes a question of, do you set up fast enough and does your opponent miss their evolutions? But one nice thing is, for the Vespiquen player, is you don't have to discard as much. You don't have to leave as many of your attacking resources because you're only knocking out 30 HP, 60 HP Pokemon. Your revenge attacks don't have to be that impressive.
Yeah. So I wonder what Game 2 is going to look like. It looks like a pretty even matchup. Dylan, I'm sure he's tested this matchup quite a bit. Nightmarch is a super popular deck. I'm not sure how much Christopher has tested against Vespiquen. Everybody knows, yep, this is popular now. This is one of the best decks, but it hasn't been around very long. Just got introduced with Ancient Origins, only been out for a couple months, so may not have fully tested out this matchup.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you think you know it. You're like, okay, I've played against Flareon in the past. This is just Flareon 2. But there are a lot of little intricacies in the matchup that do change things up. Your opponent having an entire second line of attackers has to force you to think a little bit differently. The little blacksmith tech that we have in here now, you have to think a little bit differently with that too. And now I guess even when you can run like solo Entei attackers, you got to think about that as well. Game 2 is starting up. This is the best 2 out of 3, so let's kick it off to the match.
All right, so we'll get that over in a second, and here we go. Game number 2 between Christopher and Dylan. This is, of course, a big match. Up 3 points here, a win, probably catapulting one of these players into the top 8, at least getting that 1 step closer. Both these players are in pretty good position right now.
Yeah, and Dylan definitely does want this win. He's grabbed the first one very impressively. And it just really goes to show his insane consistency. He might be the most consistent player in North America when talking about the recent, maybe last year or two. Definitely in the top 3 of that conversation.
Yeah, he's been a top-rated player for at least 3 or 4 years at this point. Made top 16 or top 8 at Nationals a bunch. Always just seems to be right up there. Probably not as famous of a name as like Jason Kozinski or people like that, but definitely one of the best.
Yeah, it's almost guaranteed. If I look at a list and see how the players are doing, I almost always see his name at the top.
Yeah, and kind of a rough start for Christopher. Has 2 Shaman EX on board already. Had to start with 1. Other one is on the bench. Drops the double colorless on the Shaman EX. Grabs a Versus Seeker for a Juniper, and that's not a pretty Juniper.
And you do not want to leave energy in this matchup.
Yeah, has to discard 2 Lightning Energy. That's really bad.
Yeah, and the 1 doubles on the Shaman, so you're sort of telegraphing, hey, I'm attacking with Shaman next turn. He's got a couple of Nightmarchers down. I haven't seen a Battle Compressor yet. Definitely not as smooth of a start as we saw from Christopher Game 1.
Yeah, and Shaman is actually a strangely decent opener against a Vespiquen deck. Combi only has 40 HP, so if your opponent puts it down, you can actually Lysander out a Combi and knock it out with Sky Return. take Shaman EX off your field and get a knockout.
Yeah, the Lysander's definitely going to be what you need. You could knock out, I guess, like Combi. Combi's there. It's not going to be able to evolve in the next turn. But poor Shaman and Muscle Band actually can't knock out Unknown in the active position.
Yep.
Has just 10 too much HP.
And it can knock out Combi and the 50 HP Eevee, though, so both decent targets. Shaman used for setup most of the time, but Sky Return, it's a decent attack.
So we do finally see a Compressor on Christopher's side of the field, getting some of those Nightmarch targets into the discard pile. It's interesting, I saw multiple Joltik and one Lampent. Has he discarded Lampent already, or did he just decide, are they prized?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any others besides that one. Maybe there's some in his hand.
Yeah, oh, that could be. Yeah, that's one of the things that can hurt, is having Lampent in hand. You need like an Ultra Ball to get rid of them.
And now Dylan going for that first turn Battle Compressor. He's going to get rid of his Wobbuffet, Mr. Mime, which there's no bench damage to block in this matchup. No need for that. And looks like he's eyeing up Jirachi EX, but I wonder if he'll go for something like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It looks like a supporter.
Yeah, going for N, something that he can versus Secret at any point and restart, can help in the late game of the matchup, and it looks like that's what he's going to do. He probably had some valuable resources in his hand that he didn't want to throw away with a card like Sycamore. So just giving you the shuffle draw from N can sometimes be just as valuable as the disruption it provides at the end of the game.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe he could go for Execute with the Battle Compressor, since you can always Propagation pull it out of the discard pile, but he's falling victim to it as well with having Execute in his hand, so he can't Battle Compressor and discard it.
Oh wow, I didn't realize he also had the Execute in here. Every player that I've seen so far that plays this deck opted to cut it. I really like the Execute, but I figured with all of these one-of cards that Dylan adds as well, that maybe he would have passed it.
Just straight up plays down 3 Unknown from his hand.
Oh man.
And then a setup for 4 cards.
Well, there's a poker hand if I ever saw one, and each of these Unknown can just leave the field, farewell letter, for an additional card.
Yeah, Unknown is just, it has incredible synergy with both Vespiquen and Flareon. Ability allows you to just throw it right in the discard pile and it gets you a card. So it's almost like you play 56 cards in your deck, since you're always just discarding Unknown and drawing another card in its place. But it's also like a permanent plus power when you put it in the discard pile for attacks like Be Revenge and Vengeance.
Yeah, this is the deck that... there are many decks that don't have attacks that rely on getting extra damage from Pokemon in the discard pile. So this makes Unknown basically the perfect combination for this deck. It's really hard to argue against running 4 copies of it.
Right. And here, I think if you're Christopher, you have to be going for a Lysander. You have to try to find one here. Does play versus Seeker. Is there a Lysander? Yes.
All right.
So this will be a big swing.
I don't know if he has replacement supporters in hand. It looks like he actually has a variety of options, but being able to knock out the Combi is great. Being able to remove one of your opponent's double colorless energy, even greater.
Yeah, this is a strategy we see even used in Nightmarch mirror matches. It's really good because you get a knockout, but you conserve your double colorless energy. It goes back to your hand. Even though your opponent's probably going to knock out your next Pokemon, you get to conserve that energy, and that's such an important resource as the game goes on.
I do see Dylan. He's running really quickly. One of the best players I've found in terms of time management. He really knows, well, I won game 1. I got to play through this quickly. If things do go poorly for any reason, I might still have time to pitch it into game 3. But so far, running with full head of steam. Has the Execute in the discard, so he has that permanent propagation that he can continually use to bring it back up to his hand. And looks like Vespiquen's going to get the Life Dew treatment, as long as he draws one to evolve from. And there it is, at the end of his Sycamore.
Yeah, but speaking of, energy, important resource management, had to discard a double colorless energy off that Professor Sycamore.
Oh, wow.
So now he's left with only 1 double colorless energy in his deck for the rest of the game.
That is going to hurt. If this Vespiquen falls, it's not going to give up a prize card, but it is going to give up that double. Dylan's going to be forced to enter the Blacksmith game very early.
Yeah. I mean, Blacksmith is great with Versus Seeker, especially because, well, you can use it on Flareon, but he runs that Entei as well, both targets for that Blacksmith.
So we do see, once again, just more cards into the discard pile, trying to thin as much as he can, make his deck as consistent as possible. And it's funny, we're so early in the game, but Dylan's almost already in a late game strategy. He's thinned his deck so much.
And there we see the town app. Looks like 2 Combi and 2 Flareon are prized. Wow, that's an awkward line. Normally, it would at least be nice if they could group together. At the very least, looks like he can get a Flareon. Opting for Combi, perhaps, if Vespiquen gets knocked out, he's going to need some more basic Pokemon down. Yeah, I think there's actually pretty clever sequence in there. So he already has a Flareon in play. What he wants to do is get the Comb B down so that the following turn he can get a Vespiquen out. He's already got an EV down, so I mean, this Vespiquen probably gets knocked out. Next turn he'll attack with Flareon and then just take the next Flareon out of his prizes. And then on the following turn he can just evolve his EV into Flareon. So
Yeah, just
setting himself up very well for the next few turns.
It seems very tempting if you already have an EV down, like, oh, well, why don't I grab the Flareon? And the reason is that EV's probably not going to be knocked out. It's probably going to be the Flareon, so why not get one more basic Pokemon down? He does only have one Vespiquen left in the deck, but hey, we know that it's in the deck because we can see what's in his prize cards.
Yep. See the trainer's mail from Christopher. Does find a life due in those 4 cards, but he's already got the Muscle Band on the Pumpkaboo with the energy, which that's going to be the one attacking. So you can't attach a second Pokemon tool to it. Doesn't have that Theta double ancient trait like some Pokemon do.
Not many Pokemon do have that. I haven't seen that in a while, actually.
Yeah.
Just tools attached to a Pokemon, or the Sigilif nonsense that we see.
The toolbox one.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, that is sort of another, I guess, caveat to the life due, is you have to be smart about when you play it and whether or not you're going to attach a Muscle Band or a Silver Bangle.
I do see a couple more trainers coming out from Christopher. I saw he took a Lysander out of his discard pile, I believe. He might go after the Shaman, but nope, he's actually just going to go ahead and Nightmarch the active. I would say that is the much better play. Seeing that Dylan has burned through so many double colorless energy, force him to keep powering up attackers.
See, Versaseeker would not be surprised if it was for the Blacksmith,
Yep.
and it is. He's going to be needing to use this over and over again to provide the double fire energy, since he has run out of doubles.
Yep, there we do see the Vengeance knockout, and he's going to take that Flareon this time, so he can evolve his Eevee to Flareon next turn.
So now Christopher in sort of a rush here. He's got a double colorless energy. Do you want to go for 2 prizes here now that's on the field? Opts to not use Lysander, but instead Hex Maniac on Dylan, maybe to slow him down.
Yep, and double colorless energy on Combi and a Chorus. Great draw for Dylan. Gonna shuffle in and draw 6 cards.
And now that is his last double colorless, I believe?
Yes.
3 in the discard pile, so if this double's gone, it's Blacksmith only. But those are his 2 remaining options in terms of attaching energy.
Yeah, I gotta wonder how much energy Christopher has left, though, as Dylan does find that next Vespiquen, plays another Battle Compressor to thin out his deck even more. At this point, Dylan's in a weird spot. If this Vespiquen goes down, he is completely reliant on Blacksmith the rest of the game.
And I don't know if I see a Versaseeker in his hand, but it's like you mentioned, Christopher's gone through a lot of doubles too. I think I've sort of been being a little negligent of how many he's attached. It seems like he's just had one from hand for many
and then
turns.
Dylan just takes Versaseeker out of his prizes. Town Map helping him again. Being able to see his prize cards, just picks out the Versaseeker. Next turn he'll have another Blacksmith.
That answers my question from the first turn of the game. Are his Lampent prized? Triple Lampent. What an awful situation. So that's why Christopher had to ditch Joltik early in the game.
Wow.
Now having to play the Mew, perhaps needing 1 energy. I think we're going to see those Lightning energy he had to discard early in the game come back to bite him.
Yeah, but it's weird. In most matchups, you would look at this and be like, I have 3 Lampent prized. Are you kidding me? This is terrible. But in this matchup, you only need like 5 Nightmarch Pokemon in the discard. So, yeah, you actually want Lampent in your prize cards. You just don't want to draw them ever.
Right.
So you're fine with them being in your prizes.
Yeah, at this point, you're set on the Night Marches. He did play a Hex Maniac, took a knockout. So Christopher has 3 prize cards remaining.
Oh, here comes the Entei.
Oh boy, and we do see probably Versaseeker, Blacksmith, and there's a full bench, so Entei's going to be running pretty hot.
Yeah, I believe it's Combat Blaze does 20 plus 20 for each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. This is a card I was trying out in some Vespiquen decks in the standard format. Didn't think it would see its way over to expanded, though.
And so we do see that Blacksmith allowing him to attach 2 fire energy from his discard pile to one of his fire Pokemon. Entei giving you, I guess, another target in addition to the Flareon. But yeah, in standard, like you mentioned, you definitely want to try and find other ways to accelerate energy, for sure.
So there we do see the knockout from that Entei. There it is, Combat Blaze for the knockout. And at this point, Christopher is in some trouble if he can't get a knockout this turn. But, I mean, if he could get a knockout and an N right here, he could make a big comeback and win the game. It's not too unreasonable.
Here's a combination I kind of like. If he is forced to throw at Mew and attack with 1 energy, I don't know how many energy he has left. The 2 lightning are really going to come back to bite him. But if he is forced to attack with Mew, it is now a life dew Mew. So it's only going to give up 1 prize card instead of 2, which would normally end the game against Dylan, giving him 2.
Yeah.
That said, it's still, he has all these Shaman as well.
Yeah, it's actually really cool because he knows Dylan is out of double colorless energy. So in order to attack, he has to play Blacksmith. And if you play Blacksmith, you can't then Lysander around the Mew. You have to attack into it, and you only get 1 prize card. Looks like Christopher may be on the verge of taking this game. I don't know if Dylan can feasibly play 2 more Blacksmith to power up 2 more Pokemon and win.
That Life Dew just might save him. If he didn't have it, Dylan just Blacksmiths and wins. But otherwise, you know, you can Shaman, draw. We know he's out of energy. He's out of cards, extends the hand. Wow, what a great comeback for Christopher.
The bottom card of Dylan's deck versus Seeker.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that would at least allow him to continue fighting forward. He might have ran Christopher out of energy. I don't know how many more he had. Yeah, looking at his deck, I'm not sure 100% if he's out of doubles.
He had 1 more double colorless left.
But he was out of lightning for sure.
Yep.
That was definitely a crazy climactic finish.
Yeah, this is a cool back and forth matchup. I really don't know which deck is favored. I think it's pretty much dead even.
It's very close. There's things I don't like about the matchup on one side. There's things I do like on the other. It's one of those things where it's a rush down, and both these players, I think they've tooled their decks to sort of fighting against other rush down decks with cards like both of them playing the Life Dew.
Yeah, it's just a weird game of resource management. Really, a lot of games come down to Professor Juniper or Sycamore, depending on which one you play, and how much stuff you have to discard. Double colorless energy is your #1 resource, and I think we can trace that game all the way back to the beginning where Christopher used Shaman EX to Sky Return for a knockout, and that let him have enough energy over the course of the game
that kept him
eventually win.
One double colorless energy up, and then later in the game, Dylan had to discard a double colorless energy, so he was 1 double colorless behind.
Yeah, and at the end of the game, that was the difference. He just had enough energy to attack. Dylan ran out. And sometimes it's that simple. You run out of energy, you can't attack anymore.
Yeah, what a fun way for it to end. You have Mew with a Life Dew and 1 lightning energy, using the Dimension Valley. There's all kinds of crazy combination set pieces in play. It's a fun way for it to end. And now both players, they sort of stormed through fairly quick games. We're moving into Game 3.
All right, game number 3 getting underway. Looked like Christopher did have a mulligan this game, so he had to show his hand to Dylan, say I have no basic Pokemon. That means Dylan will start the game with 1 extra card, which is a big deal since Dylan is going first. That'll be an extra card he gets to start with.
Yeah, and it is interesting. Against, like with Dylan's deck, whether you go first or second, you're probably not attacking because you can't evolve. That said, going second, you can get into some interesting situations where if Christopher gets a good enough start, he actually could Nightmarch in his turn, in the second turn of the game.
Yep, so here we go. Game number 3 and Swiss round number 12. Ooh, Dylan starting off with a Sycamore right away.
Immediately, just getting rid of a lot of Pokemon, so that's going to charge up your attacks. Clearly, I wasn't sure if he had any energy, but just lots of things he felt he did not need for the long term of the game. I got to dig deeper.
See the farewell letter, and Dylan might have regretted playing that fire energy now. He played it before the farewell letter, and then he drew a double colorless off the farewell letter. I think he would have preferred to just play that.
Yeah, one thing I've actually even started considering in decks like this is maybe running the 4th fire energy instead of the 3rd. You can get into some strange math in the late game where you can attach 1 fire from your hand and then maybe hope to find the 2nd. But you also want 2 fire in the discard pile for Blacksmith, so you get into some of these strange interactions where now Dylan, if he wants to make the best use of that fire, has to find the 3rd one in his deck just to attach from hand.
Yeah, I think he was just in one of those weird spots where you're trying to play really quickly. You know time is running down, and you're like, nope, I'm not going to use farewell letter. You attach the energy, and they're like, oh, wait, maybe I should use farewell letter. Then you draw a double colorless, and you're like, ugh.
Yeah, it's like, maybe I could have saved that.
Yeah.
So you see early town map for Christopher. Double in there, that's going to be a useful prize card for sure. 1 Nightmarcher, Mew.
No Lampent this time.
And Acrobike. Oh, well, hey, being able to discard Lampent, that's going to be good.
Oh, that was the dream Acrobike. You discard a Nightmarch Pokemon and then get another Acrobike. That's perfect.
Ooh, Ultra Ball. Does he have a Night Marcher in hand? I think. Oh, he has the Muscle Band, so he's good to go. Oh, he only needed 2, just a 40 HP Combi.
Yep. So he'll be able to Nightmarch for a knockout here on the first turn of the game. Of course, Nightmarch is just a super aggressive deck capable of doing large amounts of damage on the first turn of the game when going second. But of course, you only need to do 40 to knock out a Combi.
Yeah, and as I figured, not so bad when you're able to start and guarantee that you have a double color synergy for the next turn when you can pull it straight out of the prize cards post-town map.
Yep, and here we go. Dylan playing an N. He's going to need to find a Vespiquen here, otherwise he's going to fall behind pretty early. Committed a lot of energy to this active Pokemon. Also had to discard a Vespiquen early on with that Professor Sycamore, so he's going to need to find a Vespiquen or an Ultra Ball to find one.
Oh yeah, that is the awkward scenario where you've committed one basic energy. If you don't find the second, you have to slap a double on. It's like, I wish I'd never attached this first one in the first place.
Yeah. Although later on, I mean, he could just use it for Blacksmith.
I don't know if I see any Vespiquen yet in his hand. He certainly has ways to thin his deck. He's got Unknown to discard. He's definitely playing quickly through, oh, I don't want Mr. Mime, I don't want this. But I don't think I saw anything like an Ultra Ball or Easy Draw Supporter.
I don't know if I see a Vespiquen in his deck.
Oh my goodness. That could, well, I think he had to discard at least one off of that opening game Sycamore.
Yeah, I'm trying to look through. There might be one in there. Maybe I'm missing it. Yeah.
Maybe there's one in the middle there.
Yeah, he just went past it. So he has at least one in his deck. So he's going to Battle Compressor, thin out his deck, and then I believe he has an Unknown, a Farewell Letter for 1 card. We'll see if he can find Vespiquen. Even if he does, though, he's going to want to put down another Eevee or a Combi. Otherwise, he won't be able to have a follow-up attacker on the next turn.
So we see, here we go, Farewell Letter, I think it was what, for an energy?
Yeah.
Oh man, that might be a losing hand in Dylan. I'm trying to see, does he have any outs here?
He's just going to put down Wobbuffet and retreat to it, probably.
Oh boy.
Not a good situation.
This is putting Christopher in a really good spot. If he has a Lysander, he not only gets rid of Dylan's upcoming attacker, he has no replacement because all of his main attackers are basic filled, or evolution filled. They have to evolve first.
Yeah, so if Christopher can find a Lysander, he can bring out that Combi and really take away Dylan's momentum and jump out to not only a 2-prize lead, but probably 3 after that, as Dylan won't be able to evolve next turn.
Yeah, that's going to be the key to the game. And even if he doesn't get it, he's still in an excellent spot because he's going to be able to jump to this second prize. And he didn't lose his Pumpkaboo, so he's able to maintain this double for another turn. Anytime that you can say you got 2 attacks with a Nightmarch attacker, I think is a winning day for you.
It's always a really good feeling, especially if like a Joltik survives. That's the dream right there. A 30 HP Pokemon surviving. Pumpkaboo 60, so not much better, but hey, you'll take it.
And it looks like Christopher opting to go, he's got a conservative strategy here. He's got Hex Maniac, so Dylan can't play like another Shaman to set up. Attaching to Shaman. I don't know if he got anything to help him to continue to draw cards. That's just a dead hand. And Christopher telegraphing his next play. He's discarded Lysander already, and he has Versus Seeker in hand now.
Yeah, Dylan's going to drop double colors. He has a Sycamore in hand.
Oh, he did have an out.
Yeah.
That gives him something to work with.
So can he find the Vespiquen this turn? If he doesn't find it this turn, he's going to be in some big trouble.
I still don't see a Vespiquen.
Uh-oh.
I still don't see a Vespiquen. I don't even know if I see... Okay, he's got an Eevee for a Flareon to follow up. But I don't even think he has a knockout on this Pumpkaboo. This Pumpkaboo could go for the legendary 3rd turn of survival at 60 HP.
Yeah, I don't see any way for Dylan to pull off a knockout. Hex Maniac has shut off his abilities as well, so he couldn't even do something like a Shaman EX to set up for more cards.
Rotten luck. I don't know if that's... Oh, that's 2 Vespiquen he's discarded. 3 Vespiquen he's discarded.
Yep.
So he just has the 1 left in his deck. That's why it's been so hard for him to connect on this evolution. And it's taken him way too long to find Eevee, which is probably what he really needed for some of these continuing attackers.
Yeah, and now we're entering this really weird spot for Dylan. I mean, these Swiss rounds are best of 3, 50 minutes plus 3 turns. He wins the first game, loses a close second game, and he's rushing to try to win the 3rd game, try to win the series, and then it all goes downhill. And now you're in a position where it's very, very unlikely that you're going to win, and now it turns into, okay, how do I now draw this game out so that I don't lose and that I can pull it to a tie?
I need to keep playing any cards that I can, maybe slow my opponent down in any way possible. It's maybe even possible if you were trying to force a draw. Maybe your opponent has no remaining attackers or energy, you could hit bump with Autono, try and slow the game down. That said, we saw Dylan was playing, I think, fairly quickly through game 2 because he really felt he could win game 3.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's almost seeming to backfire, where now, instead of perhaps a draw that he could have gotten if he played a bit slower in game 2, now he might be facing a loss.
Yeah, and you see he's going to Sky Return with Shaman EX, just return it to his hand, take away that 2 prize liability off the field. Christopher still has to take 4 prize cards, so he's going to have to go through probably 4 non-EX Pokemon, I would assume.
And I'm not 100% sure what the time is at in this game, but it's possible if Dylan gets at least 4 additional turns here to, 3 additional turns to play through the rest of it. No more EXs available for knockouts. He could survive throughout this, but it's going to be close.
Yeah, we do see Versus Seeker getting Lysander, bringing out that Eevee. So Christopher is just going after the attackers at this point. He's avoiding Combi because he knows there are 3 Vespiquen in the discard pile, and Dylan has so far shown him that there's not a 4th one in the deck. He might think it's prized or something.
I would believe it at this point with how rotten his luck has been.
Yeah, so might as well go for the Eevee. Make it tougher for Dylan to come up with an attacker next turn.
And I mean, I see Dylan's hand. He has Flareon and Double. Those are not going to work if you don't have any Eevee surviving to the next turn.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll see the fabled hip bump next turn.
Oh man. Oh, I would love that. I mean, hey, Pumpkaboo has 30 remaining hit points. Now
sure
you don't get the hip bump effect, but it's something.
You get the hip bump knockout.
Oh man.
And that's worth a lot of style points in my book.
I want it. And I think Dylan's forced to take it that way. I don't know what else he has. He has no immediate attacker. The dream, I guess, would be a Shaman Sky Return back to hand, but I don't know if he has any way to retreat this Autono.
Now, he does have an AZ in hand. He could do that, but it looks like we're going to see the hip bump.
He's committed to the hips.
All right. So Double Colorless goes on to the Autono, and then we see Shaman EX set up for just a few cards. I think he'll probably play his AZ and immediately pick that Shaman EX up.
Yeah, you do not want that there. You want to make your opponent go through as many turns as possible. Yep, and like you called, yeah, I think he just has to.
Yeah.
If Christopher has another Lysander, that means that he could finish the game 1 turn earlier.
Absolutely. And he does have an Eevee in his hand. Looks like he's debating whether or not to put it down. I think he definitely has to at this point. You got to get those basics down so you can evolve them at some point.
Oh boy, but actually debating playing Shaman back down. If he does do that, that's 2 price cards waiting for Christopher if he has a Versus Seeker. Lysander staring Dylan down. It's right at the top of Christopher's discard pile.
I have to wonder what he's considering digging for at this point. I mean, he's already played a supporter. He's already played an energy. Could be digging for Vespiquen, I guess. Otherwise, maybe trying to find the Life Dew, but I just think that's too big of a risk. You can't play that Shaman there. It's just such a liability.
So there we see hip bump. I think Christopher may be asking, like, hip bump, does that keep going to the next Pokemon?
The answer is no.
Yeah, it for all intents and purposes was just a 2 energy attack that dealt 30 damage. No additional effects.
Yeah.
He's reading. I love that. Players, wait, what does hip bump do again? Now, as the master of hip bumping, I know you know all of its mechanics, but maybe not everyone else does.
Yeah,
They don't get hit by that often.
Yeah, the effect is on the Pokemon that took the damage.
Right.
Now that Pokemon is knocked out, the next Pokemon does not get the effect of hip bump.
So if I'm Christopher here, I want to play as quickly as possible. And it looks like, I think time might have just been called.
Nope.
That's, oh, sorry, that might have been just for the other players playing here. These players started a bit later than the rest of the round, so we'll let you know when time is really called, but it's definitely getting close.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get word if time has been called, but yeah, I don't know. If time were called right now, I don't think Christopher could win.
Right.
You would only get 2 turns, 2 of your own turns in the +3, so.
Right. If I'm Christopher right now, I am definitely wanting to play as quickly as possible.
Oh yeah. So here we go. Can Christopher find double colorless energy? If he can continue to use Nightmarch. Put the pressure on and, try to take this game 3.
And yeah.
So we do see Trainer's Mail coming out, looking at the top 4 cards, and he does find, well, double colorless. He can't take that with the Trainer's Mail, though. Has to take a trainer card. Finds an escape rope. Probably not going to play it here, but I do suppose he could. If he plays Escape Rope, he could force out an Eevee or a Combi, and could take out one of the attackers.
And so we do see a double colorless. I almost wonder, with these players slowing down their pace of play, if time maybe has been called. I'm still waiting on that. I'm getting a bit of a technical error where I can't hear our cast, but it does seem at least Christopher is 2 turns away if time has not been called.
Yeah, and now it's on Dylan's turn. Christopher goes down to 2 prizes. Just can he keep the pressure on? I don't think Dylan can realistically win this game at this point unless he gets a lucky N or something like that. Or maybe some crazy combo where he gets the life due and then like double Lysanders out Shaman in consecutive turns. But yeah, for the most part, it looks like Dylan is kind of playing for a draw at this point.
Playing to not lose.
Yeah. But, seen crazier things. Could definitely pull out a win.
So
and it all starts with 1 letter, and that is N.
Yeah, not a letter that you want to see if you're Christopher, especially if you're going to lose the attacker that you have up here with the Pumpkaboo. You basically have to have follow-up doubles or way to draw and start cycling in the Muse. And only being able to draw 2 cards after you shuffle your full hand into your deck is not the fastest way to get that going.
And again, I have to wonder how much energy has Christopher gone through? How many double colorless energy has he used? Got to be at least 2 at this point. So he's got to draw into one of them to continue attacking. Hasn't been able to get his Mew EX into play yet. That Mew EX can attack for just 1 energy with a Dimension Valley out, so you can use Lightning Energy instead of double colorless, but unable to find one.
Yeah, it looks like he does have a Trainer's Mail that he got off those 2 cards, so that could become a supporter and more draw. It'd be interesting to see where he goes with that. He is just 2 attacks away from sealing the game. The question is, can he find them?
Dylan plays that Enhanced Hammer. You might be wondering, why is he going to do that if he's going to knock out Pumpkaboo? Well, he realizes that's not a card I'm going to be able to use effectively anymore. If my opponent's going to play energy, he's going to just attack right away, and I won't be able to Enhanced Hammer effectively at any point. So might as well get rid of it. If my opponent plays an N, I won't redraw it.
So Dylan searching his deck with an Ultra Ball. He could finally get that that Vespiquen involving that poor Combi, or an additional basic Pokemon down.
Yeah.
I think Vespiquen is his last remaining attacker that he has in his deck in terms of the traditional double colorless energy revenge-based attacks.
Yeah, he does have that Entei in his prize cards. He could pull that out when he gets a knockout. I'm not sure if he has any Flareon left. You know, if he does, he can grab the Eevee and put that down next turn.
Yeah, he has, I guess, Blacksmith Fuel in the Entei if he does need to attack.
Right.
I don't think it comes down to that, though. I do not see Dylan taking 5 prize cards in whatever slow or small remaining time there is. I do see Christopher taking 2, though. He just needs to get something really good off this Trainer's Mail.
Definitely. So Dylan gonna take a look through what he's used so far. Try to consider if he wants to use that Farewell Letter. He does, and he actually finds the Vespiquen finally.
Yeah, took long enough, but there it is.
So it does evolve into Vespiquen. It's big for him to have that, and we do see the Vengeance knockout, grabs the Versus Seeker out of his prize cards, and now it's on Christopher.
Ooh.
Can he pull off a big win here?
And it looks like time now has just been called, so I believe that'll make Christopher turn 0, Dylan turn 1, Christopher comes back again turn 2, Dylan turn 3. So for Christopher to win, he needs to take a prize card in 2 consecutive turns, and I don't think that Trainer's Mail gave him anything to work with.
That was a depressing Trainer's Mail.
Was that Hex Maniac and Muscle Band? Oh,
yep.
I'm pretty sure that just sealed a draw.
Those don't draw you cards. Well, it could be a draw, but at the same time, Dylan does have 2 turns left. He does have 4 prizes, and there are 2 Shaman EX on board.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. If he has back-to-back Lysander, this could be a really strange reversal of events. He can do this in 2 turns.
That's the power of N, as we like to say. So yeah, he does have Versus Seeker number 1. First question is, does he have enough Pokemon in the discard pile to knock out a Shaman EX? Looks like the answer is yes.
I think so. He's so deep into the game. Now, I don't see a Versus Seeker number 2 coming up, but Dylan is at least playing to give himself a shot. It's wild that we would even come to this.
Definitely, and there we go. Lysander bringing out one of those Shaman EX. He can collect 2 prize cards. Unfortunately, he sees there's really nothing good in his prize cards. Nothing that can help him draw another Versus Seeker on the following turn. I gotta think he'll just take both Battle Compressor at this point, and then hope to draw like a Shaman EX. he can thin out his entire deck and then draw his whole deck and try to find Versus
wow.
Seeker.
Christopher draws nothing. Ultra
There it is.
Ball. Wait a second.
Ooh.
I think Dylan has enough cards, if there is a Versus Seeker left in his deck, where he can thin it out and find what he wants. If there's a
Yeah.
single Shaman or an unknown, I see Versus Seeker. That's got to be enough. Battle Compressor, discard 3.
Unreal.
And then you can even discard more cards out of your hand with the Ultra Ball. Find Shaman. Draw the exact rest of your deck, it looks like, at this point.
Yeah, double
Yeah.
Battle Compressor. Gonna discard absolutely everything except for Shaman and Versus Seeker.
Oh my gosh, Dylan's going to turn this around.
Ultra Ball set up. Versus
Shaman,
Seeker
draw
for
Versus
Lysander.
Seeker.
And that is it. He
With-
brings out Shaman EX, pulls the wicked comeback. Where did that come from?
Wow. With no cards left in deck, completely exhausts everything. Incredible.
Christopher was in complete control, dominating the entire game, and then N happens.
And his dreams away. I was
And he
seeing...
draws no playable cards, just draws his card and passes, draws his card and passes,
Wow.
and watches in horror as Dylan pulls off the double Lysander to win the game.
I saw Dylan's board. I was like, I just don't know if I see him getting 5 prize cards and what's remaining. But it turns out, once again, there is a very crucial element to that matchup, and it's how many EX Pokemon you have remaining on your bench. 2
Right.
Shaman EX, that turns into 4 prize cards.